Uh-huh. I just feel like I've been around the block, ripping up fantasy stock, working around the clock. Look at the view from the top. Researching rookies a lot? No, I just be listening to pods. Yeah, one in particular, I'm just a messenger. Let me just pass on the rock. Browning, brunning, pruning, pronouncing ain't what he's doing. What he's doing is not losing, but infusing you with new things. And there's Dennis the Bennett, yeah. The man is a menace, yeah. Building a dynasty, some of the finest things. Promise you won't regret it. Sly as a fox, cultured in pop. Give him his props. Here is a thought, here is a box, and you cannot compare them at all. So don't even try. Careful with the news, but when you use a take, I take up Tony Fire. I mean Dyer, because anyone else is a huge mistake. Whoa, fantasy round table, fantasy round table, yeah. Fantasy round table. Come take a look at the crown, baby. Hey, fantasy round table, fantasy round table, woo. Fantasy round table. Come take a look at the crown, baby. Go.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Fantasy Football Roundtable Podcast. It is Friday, the day after Thanksgiving. We actually have a game today. We had three big games yesterday, and then we will be diving into yet another full slate of games this week. This is one of the weeks with no buys, so we have all the teams in action, and yesterday that was three pretty good matchups that didn't quite go our way, at least on the first one. Both Dennis and I picked the Detroit Lions at home on Thanksgiving Day. It was not to be, as the Packers got the 31-24 victory. We'll start with the Packers. Kind of a big day for Dontayvion Wicks. Stepped up, had quite a few clutch catches, including the fourth down conversion to end it, a couple of touchdowns, although I'm still dubious of one of those touchdowns, at least, whether it was actually a touchdown. But he seemed like he's coming on. It feels like when he's available, he and Jordan Love have a connection that Love doesn't really seem to have with any other receiver on the team. Do you think this could be a good sign for Wicks down the stretch?
So I want to, but it's so hard to trust any Packers receiver on a week-to-week basis. For a while, it felt like, Romeo Doubs was the guy you could count on him to get enough volume to be a wide receiver 3 at a minimum each week. And then when Watson came back, he provided a little bit of boom bust and was getting some opportunities. I mean, the hard part with Wicks is leading up to this game, his highest fantasy output was 8.4 points in week 2. He just hasn't been consistent. If everybody's healthy on that team, he's the wide receiver 4. He's behind Watson, he's behind Doubs, and he's behind Golden. Now, I kind of get the sense maybe Golden his star is fading a little bit, and when Wicks comes in clutch. So Wicks has been this guy that will come. He reminds me of 3 years ago, Juwan Jennings, buried on the depth chart, but preseason and then about 5 times a year, he would have a game where he would make a play, and you're like, man, it sure feels like they should give this guy more opportunity. And he'll come in, he'll convert a third down, or he'll get a clutch touchdown, but his stat line always looks something like 2 for 3 for 26 yards and a touchdown, 1 for 5 for 13 yards, but it was a big first down. And it just was that kind of thing. In the end, it feels like until Jordan Love is consistently putting up 275 yards and, 35 to 38 pass attempts per game, that it's going to be hard. You'll want to start guys, and in order, it's probably Watson, Doubs, and right now it's a toss-up between Wicks and Golden. With Golden out, it's easy to go Wicks, but he's a plug-and-pray guy at this point. It wouldn't surprise me if we go the rest of the season without Wicks getting a touchdown. It wouldn't surprise me if we go the rest of the season and he scores 5 touchdowns.
And I get what you're
But
saying that he is behind, but I just wonder if he should be because their passing offense has been god awful for several weeks since Tucker Kraft went out. I mean, he had a real connection with Tucker Kraft. He has like semi connection with Christian Watson. I don't know if I'll ever trust that. Sometimes Dubs catches some things. He has apparently no connection with Matthew Golden because we have not seen anything materialize all season. So that's why I wonder, when Wicks is out there, it seems like Wicks is a guy that he believes is going to make a play for him and will put the ball up. And that's where I wonder if you're the Packers and you're actually trying to make any kind of a playoff run,
it's from where we sit, it's easy to go, you know what? Golden should be riding the bench and Wicks should be the third guy out there, maybe even the second guy. But week after week, we see Wicks doesn't get a ton of playing time unless somebody's out, somebody gets injured in game. So it's hard to count. There's something he's doing Monday through Saturday, Thanksgiving week notwithstanding, that makes Matt LaFleur go, yeah, he's not the one.
Well, he's been injured too, so he hasn't been totally available to them. He missed quite a bit of time. I don't know. I just
he missed 2 games this year, so that what were 13, 12, 11, 10. So weeks 8 and 9 he missed.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Another receiver that went out, much to our dismay, was Amon-Ra St. Brown. Got injured in the first quarter, never came back. If he misses time, Detroit now 7-5. This feels like a pretty crucial blow.
It's big. And so what we saw is Jameson Williams having to step up into the number 1 role. And Williams and Amon-Ra's skill sets are very different. And it ended up, it'd feel a whole lot better if Sam Laporta was healthy, but Brock Wright was out, who's his backup. So we're down to Ross Dwelley and Anthony Ferkser at the tight end position. And that's not great, Bob.
And few teams have had as uninspiring amount of wide receiver depth as Detroit, which hasn't seemed to matter because Amon-Ra and Jameson Williams are there. And we only really need the 2 receivers and our tight end. But now Laporta's gone for the year. And you lose Amon-Ra St. Brown, and it's Jameson Williams and Isaac Tesla.
Right. So Tesla played 92% of the snaps this week. Williams played 94%. Tom Kennedy, apparently he's in from Cape Cod for the week. He played 65% of the snaps. Camelot joke there for those of you that need to look it up. And then who was it? The other guy they have, not Kadero Hodge. He's in Atlanta. Khalif Raymond, he was out with injury. So if I'm, I see Detroit, well, I don't think they change what they're going to do with Jameson Williams because his skill set is not the same as Amon-Ra St. Brown. I would expect Khalif Raymond probably will slide into that role. And who knows, maybe Tom Kennedy does step up and is able to perform in that role. He didn't have a terrible game. What was Kennedy? 4 for 4 for 36. Not the production you would like to see. You'd like a little more yardage, but Tesla only had 2 targets, and I guess I would have thought in a game where Amon-Ra went out, Jahmyr Gibbs would have gotten more than four targets also. So I don't think there's anything you can really count on from the tight end position. Even if Brock Wright comes back, the tight end position feels like it'll be an afterthought. It'll be something, well, at some point it is like, well, if Jared Goff gets to the 5th option in his reads, it's probably one of these has been, never was tight ends. So the onus is really going to be on Kennedy, Tesla, and Raymond to fill in the blanks that Amon-Ra has left. I don't know how much I trust Jameson Williams to be as productive as he was this week with 10 targets, but I think we're going to have to find out if Amon-Ra misses, any extended time. We're going to have to see can Jameson Williams take that next step.
At least there's a little break, so maybe Amon-Ra. I didn't ever see a final designation about the injury.
You know what? I don't think I did either, but he got rolled up on, so I think it's an ankle.
Yeah. Well, they're saying he could miss multiple weeks. So that seems
suboptimal.
Yeah, that seems somewhat grim. The middle leg of the day was Kansas City Chiefs at the Dallas Cowboys. It ended up being a pretty fierce game, a pretty good back and forth. But the Cowboys getting the 31-28 victory. They moved to 6-5-1. I want to talk about the Chiefs first. They are now 6-6, which is not where they wanted to be. Their remaining games, I'll read them off to you. They are home for the Texans. That's a pretty good defense, not a give me. They're home for the Chargers, a team that beat them to open the season. They're at the Titans. That should be easier. They're home for the Broncos on Christmas Day, so a short week against a team that also beat them the first time they played. Then at the Raiders. At 6-6, we assume you would need at least 10 to get into the AFC. The way these AFC teams are going, you might need 11 to get in. Could the Chiefs really miss the playoffs?
They could. I mean, if you look at it, they have the potential to go 2-3 these last 5 games, and that puts them at 8-9. And you're not going to get in the playoffs there. They're going to have to overperform a little bit against Houston. I guess the plus side of the Houston game is Houston's offense isn't good, but that defense has been balls out. The Broncos, that's going to be a tough game as a division game. They have this one at home, so that'll be a little bit of a plus. They have the Chargers at home, so that's a plus. So potentially they could they go 4-1? Sure. I think that's not outside the realm of possibility. But it is looking, they have an inefficient running game that is based around Kareem Hunt, which they're getting a little, they're God bless him, they're getting something out of him. Pacheco provided a little bit of a decent change of pace. Rashee Rice is that offense right now, and everybody else is complimentary, even Travis Kelce. So, can they miss the playoffs? I won't be surprised if they do, but I also won't be surprised if they make the playoffs. I could see them, pulling out 4 out of 5 wins in these last 5 games and making it as the last wild card team. What they always say is you just have to get there. Once you're in, it all starts over. And so we'll kind of see how it rolls.
Meanwhile, Dallas goes to 6-5-1. They were in the same kind of boat as the Chiefs. It was kind of a must-win elimination type game. They are at the Lions next week, and I was wrong. Detroit and Dallas play a second Thursday in a row, so it is not a long week for Amon-Ra. It is a long week for Amon-Ra going into week 15. So they are at the Lions. This is the Cowboys. Then home for the Vikings. Home for the Chargers, at the Commanders, at the Giants. I think they should be able to win the Commanders and the Giants and the Vikings games. If they can win against the Chargers or the Lions, or I almost feel like now this Lions-Cowboys game becomes sort of an elimination game, because the Lions are in a very precarious spot now too. NFC looks even more like it's going to take 11 wins than the AFC because you already have all those teams at 8 wins. What do you think about Dallas's chances?
I think I agree with you. I think that next Thursday could very well be, the last gasp for one of these 2 teams, Detroit or Dallas. Dallas is starting to click in the passing game with CeeDee Lamb back and George Pickens being pretty dominant. Pickens, it's weird to me to watch somebody on Dallas like week after week out target CeeDee Lamb, but George Pickens is playing at a really, really high level. He wasn't as efficient as Lamb and ultimately didn't have as good a day for fantasy, but Dak has developed a lot of trust in George Pickens. Javonte Williams had a fairly inefficient day, but he got in the end zone on a passing play. So for fantasy, he's still doing good. You had mentioned in the notes a little bit earlier about Malik Davis. I think he's a change of pace guy. And he's one of these, 5'11", 200-pound guys. He's got good speed as evidenced by his 43-yard touchdown run. But he only ended up with he had 3 carries.
He had that one big play. I was wondering, after he made that big touchdown, they didn't give him a single touch in the second half, which was ironic.
Yeah, Dallas is very comfortable operating with Javonte Williams as pretty much the guy, and then they'll swing a little taste every now and again over to their fullback Hunter Lepke. But Malik Davis ended up only playing 12% of the snaps to Javonte Williams 78%. And the only other running back that did get a snap was Hunter Lepke, who played 28%. So the Cowboys running game is very geared towards Javonte Williams, much like Cincinnati's was earlier in the season with Chase Brown, where, one of our mantras is, chase the volume, but nobody's going to get, 90% of the snaps or whatnot. But early in the year, middle of the year, we were seeing that with Chase Brown. Samaje Perine's back, and they're going away from that. They're splitting it a lot more. But Javonte Williams kind of is the show. And it's great that Davis, Davis is one of those guys, I think, that you throw on the end of your bench as a handcuff, or one of those other people's handcuff kind of plays. Because if something happens to Javonte, he is going to be the guy. Though they did, I think, recently activate Kalel Mullings off of IR, or they opened his window.
Mullings is Tennessee.
Is he? There's some. Oh no, they have Phil Maffa as their guy.
Yeah.
I forget who Dallas's other running back depth is, but it's not.
It's it's the rookie who from Texas. I blocked it out.
Jaden Blue.
Jaden Blue. The final game of the night, we made jokes on Tuesday, are the Bengals bringing back Joe Burrow because they think they might make a run to the division title. And you know what? They look like they might make a run to the division title. They got the 32-14 victory over the Ravens. Ravens dropped to 6-6. The Steelers are hosting the Bills, could very well be 6-6. I know the Bengals are 4-8, but crazier things have happened, right?
So that team, the aura that Joe Burrow gives the Cincinnati Bengals is otherworldly. And there's I don't think there's any other way to describe it. And they just play, he has a reaction time and a decision-making time that nobody else on that team can can match. You watch it and they're on the road and he's literally back in the shotgun talking to his center. Hey, Ted, time clock's ticking down. We're at 7, 6, 5, and it's just like, and on defense, you're like, well, what the hell? Is he just kind of out for a Sunday stroll, having a conversation with a buddy? The defense, I don't think we can count on 5 turnovers from that defense, but maybe they're coming around. They did that without Trey Hendrickson. And, some of it I think was, that was Isaiah Likely was one of those weird plays. You got to clutch that ball tighter when you're heading into the end zone like that. The defense made some good plays though. And I don't know what got into them. They only had 2 sacks on Lamar, but it sure felt like he was under a lot more pressure.
They sacked Jackson 3 times. I want to talk about Lamar. I made a comment about him, when we were doing the previews. He has not looked good. He was only quarterback 21, averaging 10 points per game. The previous 3 before coming into tonight, he was again sub 10. He had 246 yards passing, which is the most he's had, but 1 interception, 2 fumbles, no touchdowns, only 17 of 32, only running for 27 yards on 6 carries. This is not what we typically see from Lamar, and I just don't know that the Ravens can actually make a run to the playoffs if he looks like this.
Yeah, he's clearly playing through something, it would seem. His mobility is a little bit hampered. I think, it also looks a little bit like Derrick Henry is, I don't want to say lost a step, but he's not getting, he had a 28-yarder. And his YPA looked good. And so, but it just doesn't look like that team is in sync. There were some passes that I think that felt like they should have been caught that they didn't convert. And the defense just didn't make enough plays, and that's kind of what they're supposed to. One of the things that the Ravens have been able to hang their hat on, and while the defense was banged up a lot earlier in the year, they're getting a lot healthier, and they just couldn't overcome the Joe Burrow mystique and turning the ball over 5 times. It's tough to win when you turn the ball over 5 times, and I think we saw that. I don't know if the Bengals can make a run to 9-8. I know Joe Burrow is going to do everything in his power to will them there. It feels like, it feels like the Ravens have a better shot, but they don't feel like they're playing very well right now. And so it's the NFC North looks like outside of Cleveland, it's going to be sort of a war of attrition.
So the Black Friday game, which is coming up pretty quick here, is the 8-3 Chicago Bears at the 8-3 Philadelphia Eagles. Kind of a big matchup. We'll start with the Bears. DeAndre Swift still the lead guy, but they've been mixing in Monangai. I don't think either of them have been incredible the last few weeks. How are you approaching that backfield?
So I'm still comfortable starting Swift as an RB2, preferably a flex. He's RB 16 on the year, or 17 on the year, RB 16 since week 6. Monangai's RB 34, but he didn't play a lot early in the year. He's RB 19 since week 6. So we're in the dreaded hot hand phase of the Chicago Bears backfield. And nobody likes that, because when somebody gets hot, you're hoping it's your guy. But we're going to see Ben Johnson use both of these guys. And I think Swift is still the better running back, but Monangai has, the youthful exuberance, the that burst, that pop that you get from, not being 6 years into your NFL career, getting hit by 300-pound guys every week. So Monangai still got that going for him. I think they're kind of interchangeable. They're both. Swift might be a slightly better receiver, and Monangai a slightly better short yardage back, but I think they're pretty interchangeable, and I think that's how we're going to see Ben Johnson use them. The conundrum with the Bears now is like, which wide receiver do you start which week?
Yep. And
I don't have that answer.
Might be a conundrum for the Eagles this week, too. The Bears activated Kyler Gordon and Jalen Johnson, so getting some corners in. So that might mean that they need Saquon Barkley a little more. At this time last year, Barkley was probably the best offensive player in the NFL, but right now only 684 rushing yards, a little banged up. How are you feeling about him?
So he's RB13, way underperforming his draft capital. Unless in the offseason, you listen to us talk about, when you see these guys get over 400 touches, the following year is usually not very good. And
but it hasn't been injury taking him out. It's just been, it seems like the Eagles offense sucks.
Yeah. And he's not able to be as productive. He hasn't been as productive when he gets the volume. So, Barkley's a good back. He's going to be fine. This probably is, it's tough to buy last year's production, which happens every year. We go in and we look at what happened over the last season, 3, 4, 5 seasons with a player, and we need to try to extrapolate, well, what's going to happen this year? And by and large, I don't think anybody expected Barkley to rush for 2,000 yards. I would say I would put that number at 100% of fantasy analysts did not expect Barkley to rush for 2,000 yards. That being said, it's like, well, what percentage of regression do you give him? And, most people would have been like, I think 30 or 40. So you go from 2,000 yards to 1,200 yards or something like that. It's tough to. We've seen it with going back to Barkley earlier in his career, or even back to DeMarco Murray or Christian McCaffrey. When these guys have these monster touch seasons, they just struggle the next year with being as explosive as being at, Adrian Peterson, I think, is really the only one that we saw have a real high volume output the second year after having one of those monster touch seasons. I think, and before that, I think you had to go back to like LT to see that kind of volume carry over from season to season. Now, I think Barkley is fine. I think you start him as your RB2 with upside, and some weeks he's going to get it, and some weeks he's going to drag you down, and you got to hope you built your team well enough to be able to withstand it. There's teams this week that are trying to figure out, how am I going to overcome Amon-Ra getting 0 points on 4 snaps this week. I did it a couple weeks ago. I had Jameson Williams, and I forget who the other player was. I had 2 zeros in my lineup, and I ended up winning, which was great. Lucky me. Means I built my team fine.
I am going to take the Eagles in this one.
So am I.
8-4 San Francisco 49ers at the 3-8 Cleveland Browns. George Kittle, since he came back, has been pretty solid. Are you feeling like he's back to being a weekly start?
He is. Caveat, any given week, he could be the odd man out. They've got Juwan Jennings healthy, Ricky Pearsall's back, Christian McCaffrey, and Kittle there. Any given week, one of them is outside of McCaffrey, one of them is going to be not the guy. That being said, let's roll with, you got to start him. You can't afford to not to, because even if he only gets 4 catches, he could get 4 catches for 28 yards and 2 touchdowns, and that's going to be productive for you. He's just one of those guys. that is a weekly start. And in the back of your pretty little head, any given week could be, hey, George Kittle had 19 pancake blocks, so he didn't score any fantasy points, but man, he played great.
How are we feeling about Shedeur? It's going to be his second start, first home start. Not an easy matchup, but do you think he can build on what he did last week?
So we're 2 weeks into Shedeur Sanders getting first team reps in his NFL career, which is good. I think it'll be interesting to see, do they go Wildcat in the red zone again? Did they get to the point where, hey, we're going to we're time to install that part of the offense for you? And it's tough because the NFL in general, and there's the Shedeur stands that are like, it's crazy, the Mel Kipers. Why anybody waited and didn't draft him and kept passing over him is super nuts. He was one of the top quarterbacks. And then there's a great big contingent of people that are like, he's just not that good. That's why. And all these other NFL teams looked around and said, yeah, he's not that good. And at some, in the 5th round, he finally had the value where somebody's like, yeah, let's take him. All right. Well, what's he going to do? First playing time, underwhelming, admittedly, no real preparation. Last week, played okay. They took him out in the red zone. He did throw the touchdown, which was a screen pass behind the line of scrimmage that Dylan Sampson did the work on that. He had the nice deep ball to Isaiah Bond. So he's got stuff to work with. There's an opportunity to say, hey, some plays were made. Can we grow? I think one of the good things is San Francisco's down some defensive players. They don't have Nick Bosa. They got a couple other guys out. And they still have a pretty good defensive coordinator that's going to what's the word I'm looking for? Disguise some stuff. And he's going to be faced with some opportunities to make mistakes because he does hold the ball and think he can make some plays. And so that's what leads to mistakes. Will Kevin Stefanski be able to coach that out of him is really going to be the key question. I don't think you're starting him for fantasy. We don't have anybody on a bye this week because of the holiday. So I don't think you start him for fantasy. I think you keep him on your bench. Let's see, how does he play against a decent defense, if not a top-tier defense, based on where they are health-wise right now, and see, can he make enough plays in the passing game that allow Quinshon Judkins room in the running game, and can he not make mistakes? If he can limit his mistakes, I think the Browns have a shot.
So I'm going to take the 49ers.
I'm taking the Browns. I'm going to let's see. We're on a win streak. Let's make it a streak.
I mean, a streak it could end up being. Next up, it's 7-4, the Jaguars. I keep thinking they were 8-3. I don't know why, because I haven't thought they were good all season. But 7-4 Jaguars at the 1-10 Tennessee Titans. How are we feeling about Travis Etienne? He is running back 12 on the season so far. Seems like the best part of their offense.
Yeah, he's hanging on. Fantasy world wants to see him get usurped by Bashal Tutin. And that is just not going to happen this year, I don't think. Tutin's going to get some play as the change of pace guy. Tutin gets some opportunity in short yardage because he's a better inside runner than Etienne. But by and large, Etienne is a startable back each week. The Jaguars, sometimes I feel like they're winning despite themselves. They get Brian Thomas back this week. I'd like to think that's a good thing, but him and Trevor Lawrence just have not been able to develop any chemistry over the past couple seasons. So we don't know. Let's see. If not, then fire up your Brenton Strange shares because that's who Lawrence will go to. And I think ETN, he's plug and play. You're going to keep riding that with the expectations that he's gonna probably be efficient. You're going to need him to produce in the passing game and maybe break a big play.
Meanwhile, for Tennessee, Cam Ward, quarterback 28 on the season, but since the bye, he had actually quarterback 7. Looked a lot better last week. Do you think he can keep that going?
Jacksonville is going to put a little pressure on him. It's a division game. I like that Ward has been just steadily improving. Even early in the season when he wasn't playing great, you could still see some flashes once in a while. He's on a team that has a dearth of weapons. Right now his best receiver is Chimere Dike, who, if you go back to April when he got drafted, 9 out of 10 analysts went, "Who the F is that?" And DK's playing well. He's producing in the return game with Calvin Ridley done for the year and maybe likely done for his Titans career. You're waiting to see, can Elike Omenor, can he take a step so we don't have to rely on Van Johnson? Gunnar Helm and Cam Ward seem to be developing a pretty nice connection. So running out of 12 personnel with Helm and Okonkwo, I think, is a benefit because they get a little extra blocking. They've got a couple guys to work the intermediate that are both pretty good pass catchers. So I like what's going on with Ward. If I'm Tennessee, I probably want to try to keep that first or second pick so I can trade it to a quarterback needy team for a haul. It may be a great Cleveland with the 2 first-round picks coming up there to get, Fernando Mendoza.
I'm going to take the Jags.
Yeah, me as well.
The 6-5 Houston Texans at the 8-3 Indianapolis Colts, the other 2 teams in the AFC South. After 3 weeks away, CJ Stroud due to be back. How are you feeling about him?
He's been kind of a mid quarterback for the last season and a half, so he's got some weapons. Nico Collins is great. Jaden Higgins is playing well. Christian Kirk back is doing nice work out of the slot. They got Jalen Noel and Xavier Hutchinson, so they've got some decent depth. Dalton Schultz has been consistent, is probably the word I would use. And Woody Marks has started to flash a little bit in the running game. Unfortunately, their offensive line is still what their offensive line is, so he's going to have to be able to avoid the rush, maybe use his legs a little bit more than he historically likes to. I think Stroud is a low-end QB2 with QB1 upside because when he starts clicking in the passing game, he's got weapons. I think the thing holding the passing game back, though, is the offensive line.
Meanwhile, for the Colts, when they played winning teams here in November, Pittsburgh, Kansas City, it's been tough to get Jonathan Taylor going. He's been under 100 yards. Can they change that against a good Texans defense?
So they're going to have to. And the reason being is, we saw Bad Danny a few games ago. And going against this Texans defense, it's an easy spot for Bad Danny to come back. And the Texans defense, led by Will Anderson, are monsters. Those guys, like they sacked Buffalo, 8 times?
Yeah.
It was brutal. And I think that their ability to get to the quarterback and put pressure on the quarterback can wreck a passing game. And we've seen historically over the course of his career, Daniel Jones can melt down. That being said, they're going to have to use Taylor to take some of the pressure off. And Taylor's a phenomenal running back. He's big, he's fast. got great vision, can work in the passing game. They've got a ton of passing weapons with Tyler Warren and Michael Pittman and Alec Pierce and Josh Downs. So it'll come down to, can Daniel Jones make the correct decisions? Can he see what's going to happen? I think the jury's out on that, but I do expect the Colts to win.
I am taking the Colts as well. Next up, not a great matchup, the 2-9 New Orleans Saints at the 4-7 Miami Dolphins. Tyler Shough took over as the starter in week 8. Since that time, he has been quarterback 31. How are you feeling about him?
Got a little Davis Mills to his game, doesn't he? You know, when Mills was
Davis Mills actually looks a lot better than that.
Well, when Mills was the starter in Houston at the beginning of his career, when Watson went out and Mills got thrust into the lineup, it was like, oh, he's doing all right. And then, you know, earlier this year when Mills was starting, I went back and looked. It's like, oh, well, Mills was actually QB 33 on a points per game basis. So despite him starting for almost 2 years, he wasn't super highly productive. No, I think Shough does some things well. You know, he's got a pretty good arm, a live arm. Unfortunately, New Orleans is in a rebuild, and they've got, you know, an aging Alvin Kamara who looks like he's trending towards not playing this week, which means we'll see rookie running back there. You know, I'm excited to see the Devin Neal Audric Estime combo. What's it going to give us? You know,
not much.
But Chris Olave has gotten a ton of volume, and that we love to see. Haven't been too keen on Taysom Hill with, you know, 10 carries a game. That doesn't excite me. But no, I think Shough is at that point where we got to figure out, like, ultimately, New Orleans doesn't want to win either. They want to be picking first or second, so they get, you know, an opportunity to take one of the top quarterbacks in this draft. And the more recent NFL mock drafts I've looked at, they have 3 quarterbacks going in the first round, and that's Fernando Mendoza, Ty Simpson, and Dante Moore. And after that, there's quite a long break before any more quarterbacks are drafted. So you're going to have to either hope teams like Tennessee are ahead of you that aren't going to take a quarterback, or you're up there and you're in the top 4 or 5 picks and you get an opportunity to take one of those top 3 guys. Yeah. I think Kellen Moore has got his eye on taking a quarterback high. And so we're going to see Shough and Rattler kind of get pushed to the side. Maybe one of them gets dealt in the offseason, and they determine, hey, well, this is going to be our backup to whatever rookie. We feel like if we need to start him for a half a season while the rookie gets settled, we can do that. Whether that's Tyler Shough or Spencer Rattler, it's hard to say, but with all 32 teams playing this week, I don't think you're starting Tyler Shough.
For the Dolphins, it looks like Darren Waller may be available to return on Sunday. If he plays, is he a guy you're considering plugging in?
I think so, especially against the Saints, who aren't very good. And we've seen what Waller can do when he's healthy. So if you roster him, let's face it, he's probably only going to be in there for another 2 or 3 games before he goes back out. If you've held on to him, get him in there, get these couple good games out of him till he gets hurt again, and then move on.
I am actually taking the Dolphins in this one.
Yeah, it's. I got to be honest, it's tough to pick the Saints, so I'm going Dolphins too.
Dolphins could get back to 5-7, looking a little better. Another team trying to get to 5-7 is the Atlanta Falcons, who are 4-7. They're going to be at the 2-9 New York Jets. Last week, with no Drake London, Darnell Mooney looked like vintage 2024 Darnell Mooney, especially with Kirk Cousins back there. London doubtful, not likely to play again. You feeling good about firing him up?
Yeah, I think you've got to be. Somebody's got to be the wide receiver 1, right? Might as well be Darnell Mooney.
Another team that has Washington. Another team that has no depth. So.
Right. So, it's going to be Mooney and Pitts and Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier. Going against this Jets team, would anybody be surprised if Bijan and Algier both had 20 carries? It's especially the way Cousins has been playing. So,
on the other side, we've seen John Mechie III stepping up a little bit. Still no Garrett Wilson. Is he a flex-worthy consideration for you?
I think so, as long as Tyrod Taylor's in there. The Falcons' rookie defensive ends have been getting some pressure on the quarterback, causing some turnovers. So having Tyrod in there over Fields is probably a good thing. I mentioned it a couple shows ago. I'm kind of, I expect the Jets, they're going to be drafting pretty high. I expect them to take a quarterback. And I'm not totally dissatisfied with the potential of Mason Taylor, Garrett Wilson, John Mechie, and Adonai Mitchell as the receiving core there in New York.
Next up, I am going to take the Falcons.
So am I.
The 3-8 Arizona Cardinals at the 6-5 Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a game Buccaneers really need. But first to Arizona, Trey Benson is not going to get activated. The Cardinals have not seemingly been able to run at all. Are we just avoiding this backfield altogether right now?
So Michael Carter or whoever gets the start is a desperation play. And so you just kind of got to roll. If you need it, so whether it's Knight, whether it's Carter, or whether it's DeMarcado, if all three of them are healthy, I lean DeMarcado because he gets the passing work. Carter and Bam Knight are both touchdown dependent guys. So they're the deepest of flexes.
DeMarcado not practicing with an ankle injury, so that's not looking good. Bam Knight was also not practicing. So it looks better all the time.
Yeah.
Baker Mayfield trending in the right direction despite that AC joint sprain. But one guy we know is going to be back is Bucky Irving. What do we expect from him in his first game back?
It feels like they're going to keep talking about, hey, he's going to resume his old role, but he's probably going to be, maybe 70% of that role because they don't have to rush him back. They're playing against I don't want to say Arizona is Arizona is not Tennessee or the Jets. They're playing better with Brissett.
They also lost to Tennessee, so I think that will qualify them as a bad team.
So, no, I think Bucky will be back, and if he performs well and comes off and he's like, I feel great, I think they'll try to get him back in his old role. But if not, they're plenty happy putting Sean Tucker or Rachaad White in there for a couple series, letting Bucky take it easy. Especially if Baker does play, they're going to want to try to protect him a little bit because Baker's one of these macho guys that's like, oh, I'll be just fine. Strap it up, let's go. And you've got to the team has to take the bigger picture approach and be like, look, we're fighting for the playoffs. The last thing we need is Teddy Bridgewater starting for us in the playoffs. So they'll probably have a fairly conservative offensive approach and be looking to grind the clock out with their running game. And with Irving and Tucker and Rachaad White, they should be able to do that. Tez Johnson, Chris Godwin, Cade Otton, they'll get some volume. But I think in a perfect world, they'd like Baker to attempt under 25 passes.
I'm going to take the Buccaneers.
So am I.
Next up, we have the 9-2 Los Angeles Rams at the 6-6 Carolina Panthers. Aside from Stafford, Nakua, Adams, and Kyron Williams, any Ram that you're interested in starting in a week where we have all the teams available?
So the one thing we love about the Rams is they have the narrowest of narrow funnels. So when you roster Rams in fantasy, there's one guy that has the variability to put up a big day or a lousy day, and that's the Rams tight end. Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua, Matthew Stafford are going to rock. It is starting to get a little more dicey with Kyren Williams because Blake Corum pops here and there. But by and large, Williams gets the bulk of the volume in the running game. He is getting a little bit more touchdown dependent, and they're not using him in the passing game as much. So you probably are good rolling him out as an RB2 for fantasy, knowing he's got some upside. And against this Panthers defense, there is going to be the potential for Williams to have a big day.
For the other side, 3 kind of tough games for Dowdle in a row. Can they get him back going?
Well, I don't know. Can they give him the damn ball? It isn't like he wasn't productive last
didn't do it for you.
I mean, he was putting up good numbers. They just didn't give him the ball. It's like, come on, man. You're outsmarting yourself there, Dave Canales.
I'm taking the Rams in this one.
So am I.
Next up, we have the Minnesota Vikings and they are 4-7 at the 8-3 Seattle Seahawks. Dennis, JJ McCarthy is questionable with a concussion, been limited. Behind limited no matter what. Behind him, Max Brosmer, not a good matchup on the road for either quarterback. So does that dampen our enthusiasm for Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison? I actually saw a couple people say they had benched Jefferson this week.
I got to be honest, I thought about it last week, and I'm not optimistic that Brosmer is the answer. But I saw somebody tweeted.
Depends on the question.
Right. I saw somebody tweet that yesterday or today. They're like, Justin Jefferson was quarterback proof, ... until JJ McCarthy. That being said, maybe Brosmer is a passing quarterback. He's not an athlete like McCarthy. He by no means is he, an elite talent. If he was, he wouldn't have been. I don't remember if he was a free agent or if he was
a free agent. Justin Jefferson, for what it's worth, is still wide receiver 13 on the season, but averaging a shade under 4. He's averaging 13.8 points per game, which is in the same range as Jalen Waddle and Devonta Smith. So that probably doesn't light your way. And Wan'Dale Robinson. That probably doesn't light your world.
Justin Jefferson was drafted as what? Wide receiver 3, 4?
Yeah. Or 1. I mean, I think a lot of people still had him. Him and Chase.
I would have to, like the amount of stacked my team would have to be to sit Justin Jefferson. And to be fair, where I considered sitting him, my team is stacked. And if Drake London had not been out with an injury, I may very well have sat Justin Jefferson.
Addison is the guy that I would be more likely to sit. He's only wide receiver 46.
Correct.
I think it could be super ugly this week in Seattle. I get the impetus. Speaking of Seattle and super ugly, what are you doing with the backfield?
Great question.
I'd like to sit them both in a week where 16 teams are playing, but there aren't that many great running backs out there.
Yeah, I mean, Walker is still the same guy, but for whatever reason, his efficiency is wildly erratic, and his volume is erratic too. And they don't, they don't throw the ball to him as much as I would like. They take him out for Charbonnet in the red zone, and hell, even George Halani is starting to get some run, and it just feels like, Clint Kubiak, for all that we loved about the running backs fit in his offense, it's tough to, if you're not getting volume in any offense, it's tough to be, fantasy relevant or fantasy productive with low volume or the ability to kind of build up some momentum. And it just feels like Seattle doesn't give any of their running backs an opportunity to build momentum over the course of a game.
Ken Walker, currently running back 23, sitting right between Kenneth Gainwell, who is one spot above him, and David Montgomery, who's one spot below him. And I think we've talked about how frustrating both those guys have been.
Yeah.
Zach Charbonnet, running back 33, sitting right between Jordan Mason and Kyle Monangai. So kind of tells you it's hard to feel great unless you have Christian McCaffrey, Jonathan Taylor, or Jahmyr Gibbs or Devon Achane. It's hard to feel great about your running backs because even Bijan, they've just forgotten he was on the team a couple of times. James Cook, I like those guys, but it is a wild. You were talking about how underwhelming Kyron's been at times. He's running back 10 off the season. I went to go look. I'm like, he's not having a very good year. Oh wait. I guess it's just not a good time to be a running back. I am still taking Seattle to win this game.
So am I.
7-4 Buffalo Bills at the 6-5 Pittsburgh Steelers. A gotta have it game for both teams if they want to be in the playoffs. Bills dropped to the number 7 seed. Steelers would be the number 8 seed right now, which is, in case you're missing it, out of the playoffs. I guess they go back to being the division leader since Baltimore lost. But how are we feeling about the Bills receivers?
Give me Khalil Shakir. I'm going to have to, see what Brandon Cooks gives us in the receiving game there.
They haven't said they're ruling Keon Coleman out this week, so I assume he's going to try to make his not-so-triumphant return.
Yeah, I'm not holding out high hopes for him to be, super productive.
Dalton Kincaid is supposed to be back, so that makes me happier.
Who is?
Dalton Kincaid.
Oh.
But Deion Dawkins and Spencer Brown are out. Curtis Samuel has already been ruled out. These are troubling.
Is it good when both of your starting tackles are out?
It is not, especially coming off of a game like that. Terrell Bernard is also ruled out. Maxwell Harrison is a 50-50 toss-up to play. So is Kincaid. It's getting dicey.
So that being said, with the Steelers pass rush and Buffalo being down both of their starting tackles, and Josh Allen coming off an 8-sack game, I'm going to switch my pick from the Bills to the Steelers.
I'm not. I'm sticking with the Steelers. And you know why? Because 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers has been inefficient and still has a broken wrist, and yet he's starting. So I'm not too optimistic about the Steelers offense either. So I still think the Bills will win, but this is technically the marquee matchup in the afternoon window. I'm not feeling as marquee about it right now.
Not at all.
Still better than this one, which is the 2-9 Las Vegas Raiders at the 7-4 Los Angeles Chargers. Do you think the Raiders offense will get a boost post Chip Kelly?
So Greg Olsen is he known for being a run game guy? Do you remember?
I do not remember. When you say Greg Olsen, I just think of the old ex-tight end who
I know it. I my brain always, shorts out a little bit when I think about it. But no, the Raiders' big issue is they don't have shit for an offensive line. Colton Miller's been injured, their best lineman. They need
Greg Olsen's third stint with the Raiders. He was the OC from 2013 to 14 and from 2018 to 21. I would not consider those banner times.
Yeah, it's tough for Geno to be efficient when he's under pressure. Ashton Genty can't get going. I don't know that changing the OC is going to be the answer to the why our offensive linemen can't block question, or why do we not have any top tier wide receivers?
So the coaches that he has worked for Dennis Allen, Gus Bradley, Pete Carroll, John Gruden, Dick Duran, Scott Linehan, Steve Mariucci, Sean McVay. He was an assistant in 22 for McVay. Raheem Morris is offensive coordinator. He's been an offensive coordinator for Raheem Morris, Scott Linehan, Gus Bradley, and Dennis Allen. I don't remember any of those guys having great runs.
Me either.
So the Chargers still have no tackles. They may get Omarion Hampton back. They couldn't block very well. The Raiders have been getting after quarterbacks some. How are we feeling about this passing game for the Chargers?
So Justin Herbert is going to have to use all of his 6'6" size and mobility to avoid Max Crosby. With Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater gone and playing backups at tackle, it is shaping up to be a tough day. He's going to have to get rid of the ball quick. Now, that being said, Keenan Allen, very good in the short area. Arondé Gadsden, doing great stuff at the tight end position. Lad McConkey, he's very good in the short to intermediate area as well. So if I don't think Hampton's coming back this week, so we'll get another week of Kamani Vidal.
He's back in practice. They opened his window and he is practicing as of Wednesday.
So if he gets in a full practice today, then maybe he plays. But I think they're going to want him to get
him for the Raiders. I'm still taking the Chargers.
So am I.
9-2 Denver Broncos off of a bye at the 3-8 Washington Commanders, also off of a bye. Dennis, RJ Harvey kind of joins a list of running backs that have been hit or miss. He's running back 28 on the season. He had a real hot stretch, but then after Dobbins got injured and he supposedly was getting a bigger workload, he responded with 3.8 fantasy points in week 10 and 8 fantasy points in week 11. How are you feeling about him?
It sure feels like he's best suited to be a 1B, doesn't it?
I think it feels like he's best suited to have a real coach and not Sean fucking Payton. But
I mean, he's functional. He's a good pass catcher. He doesn't necessarily have size for pass protection, but we've seen before you don't always have to be the biggest guy. You just have to be willing, able, and have some technique. He can run the ball decent. He's got good speed. I don't hate RJ Harvey. It just feels like Sean Payton isn't going to trust him enough ever to give him the volume.
I don't feel like he trusts any back enough ever, but yeah, it was frustrating to see Jaleel McLaughlin go from a healthy scratch the entire season to getting all the goal line carries. That gives me pause. If you're playing Harvey, he is the best pass catcher and has definitely been involved a lot in that, but this Denver offense continues to be just a treasure. But you know what makes me happy? The people that are no longer on the injury report, Patrick Surtain, and Alex Singleton, who had surgery in an area that I would not want to have had surgery and is seemingly only going to miss one game. So that doesn't bode well for the Washington Commanders. Terry McLaurin looks like he is finally tracking to be back. Not a great matchup. Long shot that he has Jaden Daniels. So on the one hand, we're excited Terry's healthy. On the other hand, are you actually putting him in a lineup?
I think if you roster him, you would start him as a low-end flex because he does have upside. But he's playing against one of the best defensive backfields. And, having to go against Surtain and Moss and I forget who that. Yeah.
Jaquan McLaurin.
It's going to be a tough matchup, but let's face it, McLaurin's paid very, very well to be able to win those matchups. If he comes into the game and he's fully healthy, I think you can start him with a flex, with potentially high upside. maybe he provides enough of a boost in the passing game to allow some flexibility in the running game for Chris Rodriguez and Bill Krosky Merritt. But I don't have super high hopes.
My question is whether they're going to use Surtain to shadow somebody, because obviously McLaurin and Debo are there, and honestly, based on it, I'm not sure that they will have a shadow. I think that they're just going to let Moss and Surtain play their sides.
Yeah, I don't think don't get me wrong. I love Terry McLaurin, go Bucks. But I don't think McLaurin and Debo have the cachet to say somebody needs to get shadowed.
I am taking the Broncos.
So am I.
2-9 New York Giants at the 10-2 New England Patriots. Jackson Dart was cleared and will start. How are you feeling about him?
Feel a lot better if he wasn't playing Mike Vrabel and the Patriots, but I think he's earning his keep. He's mobile, he's tough, he's got that moxie you want to see, and in what's essentially a lost season, you need to get your rookie quarterback all the reps that you can. And while I love what Jameis Winston was doing, I'm good letting Jackson Dart go out there and try to make some hay against the Patriots. It's no Malik Neighbors, no Cam Scatterboo. So Theo Johnson, Wan'Dale Robinson's having a phenomenal year. Dart has the mobility to avoid heavy pass rush. So hopefully, he doesn't end up getting piled on for the whole game. He's able to make quick decisions. Singletary and Tyrone Tracy, if they can keep the running game functioning to keep the Patriots defense honest, that may give Dart a little bit of time. The big thing is Dart's got to not hold the ball too long. And with the receiving core he's got some size with Isaiah Hodgins, and they got another is Little Jordan Humphrey the other guy there?
He's on Denver again.
Oh, is he? Yeah, they got.
Denver dumped Trent Sherfield and brought back Little Jordan Humphrey.
And but Hodgins has been playing well the last couple of weeks. Wan'Dale Robinson's having a phenomenal year. Theo Johnson's playing great. So there is an opportunity for Dart to be productive.
Meanwhile, for the Patriots, it was a painful win last week. They lost a couple of linemen. Center Jared Wilson is doubtful. Will Campbell, their best tackle, best offensive lineman, went on IR. Morgan Moses is questionable. So not feeling great about that. What are we doing with this backfield?
I mean, to be fair, Morgan Moses has been questionable his whole career.
They didn't have an incredible line. They don't want to lose the people that they have. The Will Campbell one is probably the biggest blow.
It is. That's a tough blow. So that means the game is going to fall onto Drake May being able to get the team in the right play. Ramondre is their preferred passing down back because of his blocking. But I think Henderson is their preferred pass receiving back because of his explosiveness. But with Stephon Diggs, Kayshon Boutte providing some work over the top, Hunter Henry, very consistent. Going against the Giants team, they should be okay. I know the Giants have some good players on their defensive front with Thibodeau and Burns and Abdul Carter and Dexter Lawrence. I think they get to May a couple times this game, but I think May will make some plays. He's mobile. He can get out, much like Jackson Dart. He's got that moxie. He's a tough guy. He's got running ability. So his ability to kind of get out of the pocket and out of structure and make plays, I think bodes well for the Patriots. As far as the backfield goes, I'm starting Henderson, crossing my fingers that all of a sudden Mike Vrabel doesn't decide, hey, it's a Ramondre Stevenson game.
Is it Vrabel or is it Mike McDaniel? Not Mike McDaniel, Josh McDaniels. Because I feel like Josh McDaniels did this throughout his Patriots tenure. We always used to blame it on Bill Belichick. Maybe it's never been the head coach. It's Josh McDaniels all along.
I mean, it makes sense for the offensive coordinator to say, who are the best guys to execute this play? Let me put them in. Unfortunately, there are times when it's like every time you substitute, the team eventually goes, hey, well, this guy's in, they're running one of these 4 plays. Well, this guy's in, they're you start to outsmart yourself. Until Travion Henderson gets close to Ramondre Stevenson's pass protection game, I think that's just going to be something you have to deal with.
Yeah. I am taking the Patriots.
So am I.
Well, that'll do it for the Week 13 schedule. If people have some free time on their hands, what can they do?
Well, in my heart, I want to suggest they go back and listen to our vast catalog of shows. But when I look back and see I'm 0-3 on my picks so far this week, I'm like, should I? No. Go to your favorite.
Oh, you picked Kansas City?
I did.
I thought we both picked Dallas. I'm pretty sure I picked Dallas.
Yeah, I went. I went back and looked, and I have Kansas City wrote down, but I don't. I thought I switched, and I looked, and I didn't see the literature, and I must have went Kansas City. So, anyways, maybe I didn't. Maybe I did go Dallas.
I think live in the moment you were like, I can't.
I'm switching.
Yeah.
All right. Well, go to your favorite podcast platform, hit that search button, type in the Fantasy Football Roundtable Podcast, give us a subscribe, give us a like, leave us a comment.
We will be back on Tuesday to look at the rest of this Week 13. Hopefully it goes well. Enjoy the Black Friday game and the full slate on Sunday. We will see you on Tuesday.